Great.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. I'm Mary Preenon. I'm the Director of Communications for the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors, and welcome to another virtual breakfast with benefits. It's a good thing we are virtual today because if you're in most of the parts of Hudson Valley, we've got a lot of snow. So without further ado, we are going to talk about the sun today and solar energy. And we have today with us from Infinity Energy, Mike Corso and Matt Hildebrand, and they are going to tell us all about how it works and how it can help your clients save some money on their energy costs. So good morning, Mike and Matt.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Thanks again, Mary, for having us. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to have joined HGAR. And what we want this to be is an interactive discussion. A lot of Q&A. So if anyone has any questions after we go through the basics, we are here for as long as you would like to have us. So thanks again. And again, my name is Mike Corso. I'm the head of digital strategy. Matt is one of the co-owners of the business and a wealth of knowledge. So we've got solar firepower on this Zoom call right now. So again, this is Solar 101 for real estate agents. And what I want to do is just kind of set the the lay of the land here as far as where solar is. We're in a very exciting time with solar right now. And a lot of this has to do with what was signed by Congress last year, which I'll get into in a minute. But solar is now the least expensive form of power, which is why 67% of homeowners want solar. The issue, though, is that not all homes are good candidates for solar. May not hear that from many solar companies because if you see any of the ads on solar, you'll see free this, free that, but we're very transparent and we'll be very honest with everyone that we talk to, and we will be very honest with real estate agents, because we want to basically educate you and not oversell or overhype or say anything that's not true about what's going on in solar right now. It is a very exciting time, but like I say, not all homes are good candidates. In fact, in our region, only 25 to 30% of the homes in the Northeast qualify for solar. Why is that? Well, it has a lot to do with the location, shading, trees, slope of the roof, et cetera, how many panels we can fit on a roof. So we look at a lot of factors like what a consumer is paying per month with their current utility provider. And then we consider those other factors, like I said, shading, roof dimensions, and how many panels can actually fit. But the good news is if your home does qualify for solar, the benefits and savings are significant. And the reason why largely is last year in 2022, Congress signed the Inflation Reduction Act. And in the Inflation Reduction Act, the aim there, other than obviously trying to fight inflation, was to also fight climate change and reduce our carbon emissions. There's a goal of reducing carbon emissions by 40% over the next 10 years, which is pretty significant. And the way we're going to get to this is by providing massive incentives to homeowners. So those incentives include, and this is the big one, this was increased to 30%. So there's a 30% federal tax credit right off the top of the solar system that a homeowner buys, which is phenomenal. And then in New York State, you also get a 25% tax credit up to $5,000. And the incentives are even better in New Jersey. Matt can talk to that in a bit. As far as what you guys need to know, that's where Matt is going to start sharing and throwing some knowledge. So we're going to get right into about 3 or 4 main points that we want to get into. So Matt, I'll let you take it from here.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for that.
Oh, and before you, I'm sorry, Matt. Again, I just want to repeat, if anyone wants to interrupt or has any questions, probably best to first put something in the chat, and then we may ask you to unmute if we want clarification on your question. But don't hold back if you have any questions. We are happy to answer any questions, whether it's now during this call or I'll share a phone number at the end, and you can call us then as well. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mike. So just to kind of preface off what Mike was talking about before, there's a variety of different tax credits and incentives that are available to the homeowners that already have solar on their house or are going solar. So those credits and those benefits that are provided by the state, they are transferable. So if you're running into a scenario where someone just put solar on their house, maybe a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year ago, depending on where they are in that time frame, that might be transferable to the new homeowner. So something to just piggyback off on. But just to kind of preface this a little bit, my wife is actually a realtor for Keller Williams in New Jersey. Her aunt in Remax is at Remax, also in New Jersey. So I've spent a lot of time working with realtors and making sure that they have the tools that we deem necessary to be able to, one, sell a house properly that's listed, or list a house properly that has solar on it, or represent a potential buyer that's looking into purchasing a house that has solar on it. Either way, both of these are extremely positive scenarios. I think a lot of you guys as realtors, as you get listings that have solar on it, or the homeowners are looking to purchase a house potentially that has solar on it, there's a lot of nervousness there because of the unknown. So I understand that, and as we're kind of moving into this stage where more and more people are adapting and putting solar on their houses, it's going to be you guys are really going to be in the driver's seat for communicating the benefits of going solar as these people are looking at buying the houses or listing houses with solar on it. So the first thing you want to keep in mind is solar is always a positive. Right? If you guys ring this off as solar's a negative, or you pretend that it's not there, what's going to end up happening is it's going to hurt the chances of buying the house or selling the house. So we always want to spin it as a positive. 100% of the time, when a house has solar on it, the cost of electricity is significantly lower right off the bat, 100% of the time, regardless if that system is owned outright or leased or has finance or a loan attached to it. The cost for carrying that home is immediately going to be lower. Right. So that's one of the obvious things that you want to share with your customer right off the bat. But yeah, these are some of the there are some big differences between listing and buying the houses. Mike, if you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah. And also, Matt, if you want to talk to maybe give them a sort of a typical example of what someone may see if they're spending, say, $200 or $300 a month. Like, what happens after they install solar?
Yeah, typical ownership right off the bat, or typical homes that go solar, we're seeing savings of around 30 to 40% off of their electricity bills month one, typically with no out-of-pocket expense. So that's going to depend on how this is structured versus a lease or a loan. So there's really three main ways to go solar. You can purchase a system in cash outright, which in a buyout situation, you own the system. The system is typically offsetting all your electrical needs. And because of that, you don't have any electric bill whatsoever. The alternative ways to do this, both are provided to the buyer at no money out of pocket, is a leasing option or a loan option. Now, with a leasing option, if you think of this just like a car, you have the ability to get a system installed on your house, have a lease monthly payment that is typically, again, 30% lower than what the homeowner is paying. And now the leases typically increase around 2 to 3% annually in cost per year. So for example, if you had a lease and for the first year, it'd be $100 a month. If it increased 2%, the whole next year would be at $102 a month. So a couple huge benefits of a lease system. So if you guys are running into, buy a house or you're representing someone that's looking into a lease, the way that you want to sell this product and explain this to them is that leases are completely maintained, monitored, and insured by the leaseor. So someone, obviously, if it's a lease, they don't own the system, right? The bank and the people that are backing that system, it's their responsibility to keep the system humming along, maintained, monitored, and insured 24/7. All right, so they're watching that system to make sure it's performing at the highest output, and they're making sure that it's staying functional the entire time because that's in the terms of the leasing agreement. So huge benefit for these lease systems. They're fantastic. They're fully transferable. When someone is in the process of purchasing a home that has a lease solar system on it, they sign a 2-page transfer document, which is provided from the leasing company upon request. But it's a very easy process. There's also no liens with leases or loans. It's a UCC hold. So I know this originally got a negative connotation because there was a lot of these liens on the very early solar systems about 10, 15 years ago. And getting the lien pulled off the solar system to complete the sale of a home was not an easy thing to do. That's all gone by the wayside. All right, so that's kind of on the front end, the leasing side. Where we're seeing a lot of the market turn right now is toward ownership, where they would actually, one more thing on the lease. The typical leasing solar agreement is 25 years. That's a typical term for the leasing agreement. Okay. The flip side of this coin is ownership. So for the people that don't want to lease a system and they want the pride of ownership, they have the ability to take out a loan for the solar system. The loan is typically provided through the solar installer as well. We will work directly with the banks, coordinate where the money is coming from, and then set up loans that are anywhere from a 5-year duration to a 25-year duration. Obviously, as you guys know from the mortgage side, the longer the loan, the lower the monthly payment. If you have a lower monthly payment on your loan, the savings gap increases. So typically people extend these loans out to the longest duration, which is typically 25 years. Same as a lease, the loans are fully transferable. That's common practice in the industry. So if you guys get a listing, it would be the same idea. You would just transfer the loan from the person who's selling the house to the person that is buying the house, or vice versa, depending on what side of the coin you're on.
Hey, Matt.
Yes.
Do you want to talk to the interest rate of a loan provided by the installer versus an interest rate that they may get on their own, and why it's more attractive to work through the installer to get that loan, that interest rate?
Absolutely. So it's a little tough to put our finger on exactly what interest rate to be getting, as a lot of you guys are, I'm sure, very, very well aware. Interest rates are all over the place right now, right? We were seeing interest rates of 1%, 2%, 3% not long ago. Now we're getting into that kind of 6, 7, 8. The benefit of this is solar systems historically have one of the lowest default rates of any loans available. There's about a 2% default rate across all verticals for loans. So what ends up happening is the banks are, they're excited to provide these loans. So we do get the most aggressive rates that are really available. This is an unsecured loan, so it's not backed by anything, right? It's not like a mortgage where if you stop paying, you could potentially come after the home. It's an unsecured loan, and we're still seeing rates right now in the 2 to 4% on a lot of loans. So still very, very aggressive rates.
And then also, Matt, do you want to talk about the, I know you mentioned that some people would prefer to actually set up a loan and own it eventually. What percentage of people are we seeing in terms of those who are choosing a lease versus loan versus cash up front, just buying it outright?
Without a doubt. Yeah. So every business is a little bit different, and the times are kind of cyclical. So as interest rates decrease, the loans, the market swings over to a loan side. As interest rates go up, typically the leasing starts to get more dominant. As of right now, it's probably around 60% loan. This is our personal business that we're speaking about here. About 60% loan, 20% cash, and 20% lease is where we're falling right now. If interest rates go up another 4, 5, 6 points, right, I'm sure that's going to flip to a lease heavy market versus a loan. One of the important things also to understand on this is, regardless of what program you choose, the cost of power is being controlled. So right now in our area, if you guys are, in that Con Edison, Orange and Rockland, Central Hudson area, those are the dominant utilities in the Hudson Valley. We're seeing rate increases year over year in a lot of these areas of anywhere between 8 and 22% in 1 year. So those are massive, massive utility rate increases. The benefit of a loan is the cost is fixed. So you never see any increase on this whatsoever. So if someone took out a loan 10 years ago, they're really beating inflation as we're going through this bump right now. And the same as a lease, it's controlled escalation. So it's only going to escalate typically 2% per year, year over year. So these lease systems, some of them that we see that are 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, they locked in a rate for themselves that's 30% less than what the market was selling power for, however many years ago that they signed the agreement. So as these leases go back further and further, and the loans go back further and further, the savings just continue to compound over time.
Matt, so we got some great questions coming in. If you don't mind, I'm going to.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Jose asked, can panels be purchased outright? We've answered that question. And then he asks about, he wants us to discuss maintenance options.
Sure. Yeah. So on a lease, everything is maintained, monitored, and insured. So that's covered end to end. On the loan side, it works a little bit different. There's a manufacturer's warranty on every component that's covered by the system. The manufacturer's warranties range depending on the product that you're going to be providing. At Infinity, we only provide products that have 25-year bumper-to-bumper warranties. So these warranties that are provided through the manufacturers for every component, they would cover something like the product to make sure that it's defect-free for a duration of 25 years, the power that the system will produce, and if either one of those has defects, the labor for our products are also covered under that 25-year warranty. So they're covering product, power, and labor. So on the leasing side, it's backed basically by the banks because they're making sure the system has to continue to stay in service to collect their leasing payments. On the loan side, we use only the highest quality of products that have a 25-year warranty through all the manufacturers to make sure that everything continues to work. And if there is an issue, it's on the warranty claim. And for us, Infinity covers all that labor. So if there is a warranty claim, the homeowner would reach out to us at the office anytime throughout the loan. We would handle that work with the manufacturers to procure the equipment to fix whatever needs to be fixed at no cost to the homeowner. And again, this is going to vary from outfit to outfit. That's Infinity's warranty, depending on the solar company that could range. All leasing companies are the same though. If the system is a lease system, it is maintained, monitored, and insured for the full duration of the lease, no matter what.
Okay, another question from Mary Ann, and this is great. This speaks to what I emailed you about this morning, actually, as far as efficiency of panels. So she says she owns her own solar panels. She's had them for several years, and there's about a 40% reduction on her Con Ed bill, which we love to hear. But she says her neighbor installed panels about 18 months ago. They have a smaller house and they have no electric bill. So she's wondering, you know, if that's her goal. Is there anything she can do to increase the performance of her panels?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So solar is a very unique thing when you're looking at it and you're looking down the street and you're saying, okay, here's all these different people that got solar and, you know, they have all different size houses. But in reality, we don't build the solar system to fit the home. We build the solar system to fit the electrical consumption of that family. So a really good example here is, you know, if you have two people in a cookie cutter neighborhood that have the exact same house, and in one house you have a single bachelor that works, you know, half of the time in LA and is hardly ever at the house. And then next door, you have a husband, a wife, and 9 kids. The house that has a husband, wife, and 9 kids, their electrical consumption is going to be astronomical. So that's going to require an installation with as many panels as possible on the roof. The single bachelor, even though it's the exact same square footage of the home, same exact house, is going to need very few panels because its electrical consumption is very low. So when we're gauging and we're sizing the systems out, we're basing it off of the electrical consumption of the system. So that's why you see all different size systems throughout your neighborhood, right? We install systems as small as 8 panels and as high as 90 panels on the residential side, but that's 100% based off of consumption.
Sorry. So next, can I go to the next question?
Yeah, did that answer the question?
Mary Ann, feel free to unmute if you want to follow on.
Okay. Yeah, I have, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have 14 panels on my house. And I'm just wondering if that's, you know, if I need more panels. I don't know where they would put them, but I keep getting these little, you know, Con Edison puts these little charts on your bill that says that you're consuming more than your neighbors, you're consuming more than average. I mean, they send me these little charts every month to say that my consumption of electricity is high. There are 3 adults here. Most of the time we're out of the house working, so kind of interesting that I keep getting that note from Con Ed.
We get the same note, by the way.
Yeah, and that again depends on the consumption of it, right? I mean, it's everybody uses electricity in their house a little bit differently. One of the nice things about the solar systems is they are stackable. So you can always scale a solar system and continue to add on panels if you do need more. We're seeing this pretty frequently now in our market where we've installed a lot of systems. Like Mike was mentioning before, we have over 7,000 installations under our belt. And a lot of those installations, we've been in business since 2008. So those installations have come between then and now. So a lot of those systems that are getting installed, those homeowners are now purchasing electric vehicles, and they're charging more components throughout their house. So their electrical consumption has just exploded over these past couple of years. So those homeowners are reaching out to us, and they're scaling their systems appropriately to make sure that the additional consumption that they're now using is being offset by more solar. So you can always scale the systems as long as you have the additional roof space to do so.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
so Mary Ann, I'll leave you my number at the end, and if you want to follow up, we'd love to talk to you more about that.
Okay.
Let's see, from Virginia, she says, can you give us an example of a typical scenario, like an average home with a certain roof side or number of arrays that it would get, typical loan payments? So this is kind of going back to what I was alluding to earlier, as far as, if someone's spending, say, 200 or 300, what could they expect to see?
Sure. Yeah. No, I think a 30% savings is pretty much what we're seeing across the board. That's going to depend on the size of the system. Typically, the larger the systems, the more money you save. If you have a smaller system, and your electric bill is only $80, you only need 10 panels. That's gonna make smaller savings than a system that has 60 or 70 panels, maybe, and their electric bill is $700-800. So, but it's pretty comfortable across the board. We're seeing savings of around 30%. And I see this note here, I mean the cost. So the cost is going to depend on, again, the size of the system. An easy way to kind of roughly calculate this is around $2,000 per panel installed on a loan. All right. So if you have a 30 panel system, where that system will probably range in cost around $50,000 to $60,000 purchased brand new. And then that could be that's typically spread out over a loan, like I mentioned before, of 5 to 25 years. If you're leasing a system, it's not, you wouldn't kind of factor the cost out on that. It would just be based off of the monthly payment only, because it's a lease.
And let's emphasize that even at that price, you're still spreading those loan payments out. You'd be spending significantly less than you would be paying to the utility currently. But the bigger story here, and Matt, back me up on this, is that over time, the amount of savings over, say, 15, 20, 25 years is very significant, because you're not seeing any of those annual increases in your rates. So you're holding at, say, a $200 to $250 a month monthly bill, whereas Con Ed, PSE&G, they could be going up to $600, $700, $800 over that period of time, and of course more. So the savings, if you were to add it up over time, is quite significant.
That's correct. Yeah. So as soon as you go solar, you're essentially shielding yourself from inflation, and you're locking yourself in at a significantly lower cost. Even in a lot of the areas, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but in Central Hudson, there's massive lawsuits against the utilities for increasing the cost as rapidly as they have. There's a handful of areas in Central Hudson's territory where the cost of power has doubled or tripled over the past 3-4 years. So those people that have solar, they don't feel that at all. They're unaware to what's happening in the outside world, because they're not subject to the volatility on the month-to-month basis or the year-to-year basis, because they have a locked-in solar payment. Absolutely. Yeah. So huge benefit on the solar side. Of course, you're going to pay significantly less, 30%, give or take, right? Less than what you're paying. You're locking in the cost of power. And then, of course, this is the eco-friendly way to receive your power over, a coal plant or a nuclear plant.
Yeah. And after this call, I'll share with everyone a chart which shows what I was just speaking about in terms of the lifetime savings. I think you'll all be pretty impressed with that, and that would be something that would be great to share with clients.
Sure.
Another great question here, and we were just talking about this yesterday. Don wants to know about the installation cost of putting it on the roof versus the yard.
Yeah, so the ground mounted side, so there's two ways to install solar on a residential property. You can put it on the roof, or you can put it pretty much in the yard if they have the space. Once you put a system on the ground, it comes with its own additional layers of complexity. It can't be near a body of water like a pool or a pond or lake or anything like that. It needs to be set back off of the property line by a certain amount, typically 50 to 100 feet. So you need a significant piece of property to be able to do that. And the things are large, right? I mean, if you look at the background of this slideshow here, these are substantial systems when they're on the ground. So the cost of it, it can be a little bit more depending on how they're set up, because we do need to build that racking system and that freestanding unit somewhere in the property. And then of course, trench to get the electric from the house to the system. So typically the out-of-pocket expense is higher with the ground mounted systems, but typically the systems actually produce more electricity because they're perfectly positioned. We can position perfectly to hit the sun throughout the day. Where on the roof, you pretty much get what you get.
Here's a great question from Virginia again. I love this. She's kind of making an analogy between an iPhone upgrade. Can you upgrade your solar panels? Exchange them for the newest and best.
So depending on the scenario, again, this goes back to leasing, loaning, buying them in cash. If you own a system, of course, you can swap them out at any time, right? You can always upgrade the systems. If you have a loan and you're already making monthly loan payments toward that system, you're investing in that product. The biggest thing that the homeowners want to accomplish is something called a 100% offset, where the system is producing all the power that you need. So as long as the system is producing the amount of power that you need, you wouldn't necessarily want to upgrade the technology because you're already producing all the power that your home needs to power itself.
Yeah. And Anita asks if panels can be removed for home renovation purposes.
They can. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if someone is, for example, replacing their roof at a company like in Infinity, we do this all the time. We have a system that's installed. We can come out, we can remove the system and reinstall it. We do that for no cost for our customers.
And you're going to love this question, Matt. Donald has noticed that at BJ's, the solar installers say that it's 100% free. And the question is, do you have any idea how they can do that?
There is no such thing as 100% free. These are the three programs that are available. You can purchase the system outright in cash, which is obviously not free. You can take out a loan, or you can lease the system. Both of the latter options are no money out of pocket. So the quote unquote installation is free, right? Because you're not paying out of pocket for it, especially on a lease, right? Then, there's no cost to that installation. But a loan is a loan, right? It's just, your first payments due 60 days after this system is installed. And then on a lease, right, there wouldn't be any upfront cost to getting it started. But there is no such thing as free solar. It doesn't exist.
Don, I see your question, and I'm going to follow up with you regarding your 3,000 square foot house and the investment of a solar system, how it makes sense. So if you, again, I'll be leaving my phone number. I would love to have a conversation with you about that.
Yeah, well, I can actually, I mean, this does, I'm looking at that message here. When you're looking at a solar system and you're looking at long-term costs and cost savings, the amount of money that we save people over this span of 25, 30 years, which is a solar system's useful life, is typically in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you invest $60,000 spread out in payments over a 25-year span, but you've now avoided $180,000 of paying to Con Edison, the cost savings on that project are massive. They're massive. You're talking about saving, 6 figures here right off the bat, right? So, and this is not, it's not untypical that we're seeing these scenarios where we're doing these cost savings over a scenario of, 25 or 30 years. And if, especially in Con Ed, where the cost is so high, we're seeing people save between $100,000 and $200,000 versus sticking with the utility company.
And I see, Don's got some fighting words here. Roof mount is ugly. I think I got to share some of our best shots, right?
Yeah. So, and this is going to go, and when you're working with companies, and when you're installing these, ugly is a point of view, right? It's a preference. So, depending on the technology and depending on the systems that are being installed, they all look different. right? So there's different color panels, there's different materials. Some are blue, some are black, some are silver. So that's good. The technology and the look and the aesthetic of the system is going to change depending on the installer that did it. The other side of this coin is the quality of the installers that complete the work are going to dramatically affect the final output of what you're looking at. Just like any other home improvement. If you have master tradesmen that are working on the system, you're going to get a much nicer looking final product than if you have someone that is just there to kind of hurry up, do the work and get out. But yes, this is a point of view on preference. I've worked with a lot of people that are purchasing houses for solar, and a lot of people don't mind the looks of them, or actually prefer the looks of them.
Yeah, and this is by no means a commercial for Infinity Energy and what we do, but I will just say that the founders of the company, one is a GAF elite roofer, and the other one is a master electrician. So we have guys who are running this company who know about aesthetic and not just slapping anything on a roof just to provide solar power. This might be a good time. It's funny that no one's asked this question about home values, but studies have shown that home values have been going up, or are typically 4% higher with homes that do have solar power. So we've got, I do have another chart here on that. No, let's go back up here. Yeah, so this is a government organization, National Renewable Energy Laboratory. On average, home values increase by 4%. We've seen studies like this from several different sources. So if you want me to send you the background on that, I'm happy to do so. But that's certainly something that is worth having in your back pocket when you're speaking with a prospective buyer.
Yeah, and I can touch on this here for a minute. So if you're across the board, what we're seeing on this, and a lot of this research has been done by Zillow, the U.S. Department of Energy, on these joint researches, and they're typically finding really the same thing across all these different studies, that houses with solar on average are selling for about 5% more money. Also, houses with solar are selling around 15% faster. So that's what these studies are pretty much coming up with. It's the positioning of what you're looking at and how you're spinning this that's going to, I think, move that on a little faster here. But they are coming up with these studies, and this is the numbers that they're coming back with, Zillow and the U.S. Department of Energy. If you guys start Googling them, there's a lot of good studies out there to find.
Yeah. Mary, the question that you asked, we did touch on that earlier, and what I want to do is I'll follow up with sort of a summary of all the questions and answers that have been provided. So yeah, I mean, great question as far as transferring a lease or a loan, and going back to Don is questioning how you can save so much money over a period of time. Well, again, it has to do with that increase, the annual increases that you see over the 20-25 year period from the utilities. When you add that up, that's how you achieve these incredible savings over time.
Correct.
Clayton wants to know if we install on 5,000 to 10,000 square foot office buildings. We do. We can put you in touch with David Schaefer at Infinity, who handles commercial. Let's see. So we talked about inflation prevention, locking in rates from previous years. So you're just paying whatever that rate is currently. Environmental benefits. I don't think we need to talk about that with everyone here, but it's clear that, again, based on the Inflation Reduction Act and the whole goal of fighting climate change, this is why there's such a big push in this country right now to go solar, not just residential, but commercial as well. Unless there are any other questions, we were just going to share a referral program that we have for folks like you and others. This is actually something that we offer everybody, even our existing customers. So are there any other questions before we get into that? Mary, how are we doing on time? We're good? Okay. All right. So we do have a referral program. So if any of you guys have know of people who have just bought a home that doesn't have solar and they're considering solar. We pay a $500 referral fee for that installation. And if you refer 2 people, it's $750 for the second one, and then everyone after is $1,000. That's all I'm going to say about that. If you have any interest in that, just get in touch with us. As far as Infinity Energy, you can go on Google, do a search for Infinity Energy, Mahwah, New Jersey. You'll see now it's close to 300, near 5-star reviews. We have an outstanding rating on both Google, Facebook, Yelp, elsewhere. And let's see, that's it. We want to thank you, of course, for your time, for your valuable time on this beautiful yet challenging day out there. And if you do have any questions, that is my personal cell phone number, 914-907-9733. And I am happy to answer any questions, and any questions that I cannot answer, I will be quick to reply with some good information. And that's, yeah, I see Giorgio is asking for contact. There it is.
I see here too, somebody asked about the property taxes. This does not increase your property taxes in New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut. It's written into the law. It's one of the benefits of going solar. So it won't affect property taxes.
Yeah, and we touched upon the tax credit earlier. Kulsum, is it? If I'm saying it correctly, there's a 30% federal tax credit that you get right off the top from the federal government. And then in New York State, there's a 25% tax credit up to $5,000. And as I said earlier, even better incentives exist in New Jersey. And Virginia wants to know if there's a permit to install.
There is. Yeah, there's a permitting process. That's when before you get the system installed, you file a permit with the local municipality.
Okay, I think, Jose, did you have your hand up? Somebody had their hand up, wanted to ask a question. You can unmute and ask a question if you'd like.
Yes, thank you. My question was, has there ever been an instance where a buyer wants nothing to do with these panels and doesn't want them, doesn't want to continue to lease? What happens in that case?
So kind of like a car, right? At that point, if you have a leased solar system, you can you can have the system removed, but it'll be a penalty. You'll have to pay off certain parts of the lease payment or negotiate to get it out of there. But it's extremely, extremely, extremely rare. And the 7,000 installs that we've had, we haven't seen that before. Once people go ahead.
The buyer has to pay. The buyer has to pay this fee to remove them.
I mean, if you're removing the system, which again we haven't removed any system since we've been in service. I've heard of someone doing this before, but we've never removed a system off of a house. Once people understand the benefit of the amount of money that they're going to be saving versus what they would be paying for the utility side of it, people keep it at 10 times out of 10. But yes, if you have a lease system, right, and at that side, and you're looking to remove the system off, the leasing company would penalize you for terminating the lease earlier than the set date, just like a car or any other product that you would lease. And there would be a termination fee. Now, who pays that fee would be, up to the sellers and the buyers, depending on the scenario. But I can recommend right now that should never be the goal. If someone is looking at a house and they're talking about, potentially removing the system, it's because they don't understand how the system operates, right? Once they understand the ins and outs of the benefits, the tax credits, the locking in cost of power, the monthly savings, and so on and so forth, that's going to give them the ability, hopefully, to sway them to keep the system.
I think Virginia has her hand up. Virginia, do you want to ask a question?
Yes. First of all, thank you guys, and thank you, Mary, for bringing this topic to us. I'm a recently retired teacher, and we actually taught this to our elementary school children. And even though I'm an empty nester now, living in an apartment, and I don't own my home anymore, sometimes I feel like I want to go out there and just buy one just to have solar panels. That's how, psyched I am about this topic. And along those lines, I'm in the city. So, kudos to whoever's paying $275 for a 3,000 square foot home, because that does not happen in the city. I pay $350 every month, and this is an apartment, and I live alone. I don't know how that happens, but in the city, I've heard, and that they in the apartments, they're actually, I don't know if they do it on the window or something, but I mean, I heard that there might be possibilities for people who are living in apartments to actually have solar panel. I don't know if this is a fiction tale, in someone's mind, or if this is really happening.
Yeah, typically the way that works is through something called community solar, through a
Yes.
product called an ESCO, right? So some of you guys might be familiar with these electric supply companies. They're third-party providers that have the ability to generate power through a different form off-site, and then you can select to buy your power through that company. So an example, if you're in New York City, maybe there's a huge solar plant up here in the Hudson Valley somewhere, right? And you have the ability as someone in Con Edison to buy power from that source at a cheaper rate. So you're not actually putting solar on site there. You're just purchasing the power that's generated by solar from a different site and paying sometimes less money for it.
Yeah, but I can already see that it's not the same, because I'm already involved with that, ESCO situation. I actually pay for my electricity that is very cheap to someone, and then I pay about 500% more for Con Ed to deliver it,
Yeah.
which is horrible. So as I said before, any amount of, I think $2,000 per panel, wow, that is, to me, to get rid of Con Ed in your bill every month, I think that is an excellent deal. But one of the things that I also wanted to say, I think it was Mary Ann that was asking about, her older panels. It is, admirable that there were people that believed in this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and they bought right out. And that is beautiful. But I believe that there should be a system in place where they can actually, I know they can replace, because anyone can replace for something newer, and technology is better every single day. But it would be nice if they actually do take into consideration those older panels that they have that are no longer as effective, and they actually get some sort of money or credit, because that's the whole idea, for you to be able to get credit, because you were one of those first people that believed in the system, and you went out there and you made this purchase. And I know that probably when she bought it, because it was the beginning of solar panels back then, they probably paid a lot of money. Or maybe it was not, it was more substantial than what is going on now, because it is so much easier now to get solar, that's what I wanted to say.
Well, the industry also is changing every day, and there's things that are coming out left and right. Like new bills, new laws are being passed, new tax credits, and a lot of the conversation is, updating product down the line, right? Updating product, responsibly recycling of older systems, implementing new systems to take that place. And as the industry continues to grow and more people get involved in it, more of these programs will start appearing for sure. And I do also just want to point out something you said. Solar education is kind of mandatory in schools now. So we're starting to see that really kind of take grip, right? Where either children are coming home and talking to their parents about it and getting interested or getting the conversation started in the house, or a lot of these people that, were going to school when they were 10, 15, when they started teaching this in school, guess what? They're 30, 35 now, and they're buying houses. So it's not a question of, do I want to put solar on my house? It's just a question of when, for the majority of people that are first-time home buyers right now.
Yes.
So the adoption for solar is exploding across the board. And every year, as that younger generation now are purchasing houses, we're going to see more and more and more adoption across our area, especially with the cost of power in Con Edison and Orange and Rockland and so on and so forth.
Yes, and anyone that has grandchildren or children and they want them to learn, there's an organization downtown in New York City by Chelsea that is called Solar One. And they're an organization that actually teaches and shows, and a lot of families go there over the weekend as if they were going to a park or to a museum, and the children enjoy it. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Virginia. We still have, Mary Ann has another question. She just put in the chat. She says her system's about 5 years old, bought it through Costco.
They were installed by Sunrun. I don't think it's the age of the panels, more like the number of panels. So what's the question?
responding to, who was that, Virginia was speaking about older systems. It's not that old. I think the performance just has to do with the number of panels, in my case.
And
Yeah, are
actually,
you not getting the power that you need from the system, or?
Well, I'm only getting a 40% reduction in Con Ed. I'd like to see better.
Yeah, so the way that a lot of these leasing systems work, so Sunrun is predominantly a leasing company. If you look at the page 1 of your agreement, right,
I
it's going
own
to tell
them.
you, okay, yeah, so if you own them, right, same thing on the agreement on page 1, there's going to be an estimated production of what the system is
Right.
supposed to be producing. Typically with that, you'll get a monitoring system. So the monitoring system is available on your cell phone, tablet, computer to see exactly what the solar system is producing day in or day out. So making sure that those two things are matching up is important, right? Especially if you guys are brokering a sale, you want to make sure that the system is up and running and doing what it's supposed to be doing. Now, going back to what I was talking about before, right? A lot of these customers, for us, we've installed solar systems 4, 5, 6 years ago. Now they've went out, they bought 2 Teslas, they've put in a jacuzzi or an in-ground pool, and their electrical consumption has exploded. So with that, you would need to scale the system accordingly. So first step, just making sure the system is producing the power it needs to be producing contractually. And then if it is, scaling the system to meet your current day needs.
so I think a good place to conclude here is on something we didn't touch on, which is net metering, Matt. And that kind of relates to what Virginia was talking about, how she's saying, well, early on, if you commit to solar and you now have a system that isn't maybe as efficient, do you want to upgrade? Well, the answer was, well, if you're providing all of your electrical power from even an older system, there's no need to upgrade. However, the net metering issue could play into that decision.
Yeah, I mean, the way that the systems are operating in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut is the systems operate through a process called net metering. So essentially the way that this works is the system is generating electricity throughout the day. If that power that the solar system is generating is needed inside the house, system generates the power, that power comes directly into your house for consumption. Now, if you don't need the power or there's no one home because you're at work, right? System's generating a lot of power. That power actually gets exported out to the grid. And then you generate credits where you can consume that power when the sun goes down, right? So it's kind of this push and pull of electric from the house. System is generating power. If you need it, you consume it. If you don't, you send it out to the grid and you bank credits for a later time. When it gets night, it's dark, or when no sun is out. So some of these laws on the net metering side are changing, and right now not for the better. California has had a big change in the net metering policies. Some of these other policies are going to affect that, which could make it mandatory to retrofit every system with batteries, which would actually increase the cost of solar. So there's a lot of talk going on about this. But I'm not sure if that's exactly what you were talking, but that's the net metering policies right now. They are in place. Every time your system generates 1 kilowatt hour of electricity that you send out to the grid, you get 1 kilowatt hour back.
Right. So
Anne Marie, oops, I'm sorry. Anne Marie had a question.
Can you hear me? I just lost you somewhere.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I had typed it and he did start to answer it. My biggest concern is the whole thing about disposal of them. At the end of their 10 to 15 lifetime, because they're biodegradable, where are they going? What is being done about that?
Good question. Yeah, so we're looking into this as some of the other kind of market leaders. There's machinery that that can be purchased right now. The machinery is in the millions. It's not a cheap piece of equipment, but there's companies that are looking at starting to purchase these things where you feed the older panels through these systems and they kind of separate each piece of it. Right, so systems are made up of silicone, aluminum, copper, where as you feed the panels through, it'll start to pull these different pieces apart, and then some of them can be recycled and some of them can be disposed of in different ways as well. As of right now, there's not a ton of these plants that exist across the country because useful life for solar panels is 25 years. Majority of people haven't had solar, they haven't come full circle on that yet to start disposing of these things on a mass scale.
We have 2 more questions in the chat. Virginia first wants to know, what is the optimal placement of a home for solar panels or the optimal pitch of the roof?
So most importantly, you want the the roofs that hold the solar panels to be south facing. Right, since the sun is rising in the eastern sky and setting in the western sky, and it's rotating through the southern hemisphere, all that sun is coming in from the southern sky and hitting those roof planes first. So the roof plane facing south is ideal, right? As you move further away from south, it's less time that's hitting those panels throughout the day. So if your roof is facing more east or more west, that's going to affect how many panels you need to generate the same amount of power. If your roof is facing really south, you're going to need a lot less panels to generate a lot more power, because each one of those panels will be operating significantly more efficiently.
And we have one last question from Don. How large is each panel and how much power does each generate?
They're about 3 feet by 5 feet, 3 feet wide by 5 feet tall. And that's going to depend on the product that you use and how much sun each panel is getting. So going back to that, south facing, if your panel is on a due south facing, it'll produce maybe 450 kilowatt hours a year, right? If it's east to west, it'll decrease from there.
Okay, well, this has been real education. Unfortunately, I have one of those homes that was not able to have solar power because I'm surrounded by tons of trees. But I do have a little wood burning stove, so I don't, my heating bills are not that bad. So,
Oh,
Yeah. Well, one of the ways, just to kind of leave you on this, I think that right now there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of kind of the fear of the unknown when it comes to solar. So as you guys are and we were talking about this before, someone said in the story, though, it's free install, it's free install. Well, it's not free. And anybody that says that it is free, right, there's that connotation now that this is maybe scammy or it doesn't work, right? So I think a lot of homeowners are going to be looking to you guys as the experts here, and they're going to start asking you questions about the solar, whether that be a listing or, representing a potential buyer. And I think it's very important to just position this as a positive thing that is going to save them a lot of money. Like I mentioned earlier, we're seeing 6-figure savings. It's locking in the cost of power at a time where inflation is just running rampant right now. And the cost of everything is skyrocketing month after month. So it's very, very important to focus on the benefits of the system rather than let me talk to someone and see if I can get that removed, right? We don't want to go down that path because the answer is no, it's not going to be. Right, it's going to stay. And now we need to make sure that those people understand the benefits of the system, so it's tied in, right? You would never say to a homeowner, right, if I don't like that pool, right, well, let me see if I can get that removed for you, right? You would never say that. It's a fixture of the property, fixture of the home. You're going to explain to that person the benefits of having a pool and how much they're going to enjoy it. Same idea with the solar systems.
okay.
Disadvantages of solar energy, is that correct?
What was that? It cut out there.
There are no disadvantages. I haven't heard any disadvantages.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, you're going to save money. You're going to lock in your cost for power. Depending on how long ago you got the system, you might still be able to claim certain tax incentives on the federal and the state side. Again, beating inflation, and just there's a better way to receive power now. We're at that stage in the game, right? We don't need to generate power via nuclear offsite, via coal offsite. Everybody has the ability to generate their own power to power their homes on site, right? This is a more efficient way to run your home.
Yeah, certainly for as I said up top, the 25% of the homes that are good candidates for solar, it's really a no-brainer decision. And as far as trees, Mary, you mentioned trees. For any tree that we have to cut down to make solar viable for a house, we will plant a tree. So
Good to know. Right. Well, this has been great. I thank you both, Mike and Matt, for a really informative presentation. As I said, we are recording this and we should have it for you later this afternoon or tomorrow. And I just want to briefly share my screen with you. We are having our very first live breakfast with benefits coming up on March 14th. It's going to be at our location in White Plains. Hopefully we won't have snow. This is going to be presented by Prime Lending, and it's all about credit and credit scores and how that affects your client's ability to purchase a home. So that should be really great. And we're going to have bagels, we're going to have coffee, we're going to have buns. So that should offset the cost of the couple dollars for parking. at White Plains. So just save that date, March 14th. We're starting at 9 o'clock, so we can have breakfast, and then the program will start at 10 o'clock. And I don't know whether you can, my cat is yelling in the background. Yes, we have to go. Okay.
I should mention parking at your place is absolutely wonderful, since you've got a beautiful solar covered parking
We
lot.
do, right, right.
And I'm just posting again before we leave, contact number for us.
Thank you for your time, guys. It was very nice to meet you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today. And when I send out the recording, I'll put Infinity's contact information in case you want to contact them directly, have any questions. So have a wonderful day. Stay indoors. Oh, the snow has stopped up here in Cortland Manor.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks again, Mary. Bye-bye.
Bye.